G'day guys. So we've got Neil who's made the effort to come up to the farm today.
Hi everyone.
So big effort from Neil, and he's come up for a specific reason. We have a very special event going on. We've got a new infrared laser that has been kindly donated from. Who's been involved in the donation there, Neil? There's been a few, hasn't there?
Yes, there was Chris and Renata.
Yeah.
And another couple that's asked to remain
silent. Yeah.
But you know who you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very generous, and we're very excited to come and get the handover and be able to start treating the dogs up here on a more regular basis. And Neil's also going to go through with me a couple of techniques and a bit of theory, a bit of insider knowledge handover from Neil's profession. So a lot of that won't make the camera. However, Neil has mentioned an interest in looking into putting out an online course as well. So that will be very exciting for anyone who is interested to get more hands-on with their pup. So we're just going to film in the background and then come up with a video to show some of the actions of using the laser, and we'll do a couple of assessments on 2 or 3 of the dogs that we've got here. So,
sounds good.
Hope you enjoy.
So these are the focal points or interest points which you may find of interest.
Yeah.
Hips, probably one of the very important things in the back legs.
Yeah.
A lot of controversy about how to examine hips, what's the best way, which way is the most accurate. There's even many types of hip scoring systems now.
Right, okay,
Two main ones would be AVA, Australian Veterinary Association, which will give you a particular hip score out of 120. There's another type which is called pen hip, which is a little controversial, but we'll go through that a bit later.
Okay.
Other joint of interest would probably be the stifle or the knee. You would know that one primarily because cruciate ligaments are probably the main concern. So we'll go through that quite a bit today because that's very important and relatively easy to check if you know how to.
That one is probably my most familiar one because it is a common injury among heavier dogs when they're doing intense activity. So when we were running the daycare, it didn't happen often, but over the 5 or 6 years we were running, I'd say we encountered it probably about 5 or 6 times. Often with dogs that had been coming for quite a long while, have an extended Christmas period, and then on their first day back after putting on a few Christmas pounds, and they run into injury. So over the years we learnt to try and keep them really calm when they first come back, but the dogs all get super excited and it's hard to do.
Hard to stop them.
Yeah.
Third joint would probably be the elbow.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated joint. We've got 3 bones connecting together. There's a lot of ligaments involved there as well. So we'll cover that in detail a lot today as well. And of course the spine, which is one of my main focuses in my clinic because it's probably one of the most undiagnosed injuries and causes of pain that you'll ever come across with dogs. There's not a huge amount of veterinarians and specialists that know how to check it properly, and B, it's kind of discarded as not a main issue unless there's a real issue like paralysis.
Sure.
But there's so many variables or subtle injuries that occur before it leads to that. So many tests that we can do to make sure that that spine is nice and healthy. And if there is any issues, that we can treat it accordingly so it doesn't get to that point where it can be a real problem.
Sure. Actually looking at the technical way of assessing them, it would be a lot easier if they could just tell you, it's right here. You know?
That's the main thing. Is they can't
say anything.
Well, they can't say it. They do tell us, but in much more subtle ways.
Sure.
And it's not always a yelp. In fact, it rarely is. It's usually more subtle signs.
Right.
And so it's our job when we're checking them over is to know what sort of signs they can be. And it can vary from dog to dog. It can vary from injury to injury. So first thing would probably be that I'd suggest would be a gait analysis. So being able to watch them move to see if there's any of those legs that you can find that
Are restricted.
are restrictive, or if you're seeing a known, or you can see an actual unbalance.
Yeah, sure.
The best way to see that is when they're at a trot, not a walk, not a run, a trot.
Right.
Do you know the difference between?
I do, yeah. If we're relating it to horses, is it the same?
Easy.
Yeah.
Horses are easy.
Yeah.
And I typically find most horse owners or horse trainers will be able to pick up lanes much easier than most average dog owners.
Yeah,
because they're used to seeing them in a trot.
Yeah.
And they have to be able to do the same thing and try and work out where it is. If it's severe, then you will see it more so in a walk as well.
Yeah, okay.
If it's really bad, you'll definitely see it in a walk. But if it's subtle, which is usually when it'll start showing up, is when you're at a trot.
Maggie, she has an ongoing issue that's been going for probably about 3 weeks now. It's a bit of a phantom thing. Completely disappears on a sprint, you know, but slow to moderate work, you can see her favouring. So the reason it disappears when they're at a sprint or a run is because their back legs go together. Yeah.
So it's a one left right.
Yeah,
left
sure,
right.
sure.
Left right. Same with the front legs. Left right or right left. Right left. Right left. Whereas when they're trotting, 1, 2.
And they're doing a full movement in each.
Full movement.
Yeah, okay. Got you.
So when they're trotting, there's a back leg that's on the ground, and there's the opposite front leg on the ground. When they're running at full speed, it's usually two of the back legs on the ground, or two of the front legs, or at that full speed, it's usually maybe one leg on the ground at any given time. And so they have that sort of in that gallop position, they'll hide it. You won't see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though they may feel pain, or the other option is the adrenaline's so pumping that they don't feel it and they don't care, but they may when they come back to you in the trot.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
You should have done that.
Yeah.
So at a walk, they can hide it because they're going slow.
Yeah, okay.
And so they can protect it. But it's very hard to see with an untrained eye in that walk. I can see it because I've been doing it for 20 years. But
of course.
When you're starting to learn, best to see it when you're watching with a trot.
Yep, sure.
With that in mind, how do we know which leg?
Oh, you're going to point something out to see what leg?
Yeah, I was
let's do
actually.
it,
And
let's do it.
what's interesting is this video, the voiceover is saying that this dog's lame on her left leg when she's actually lame on her right.
Yeah, okay.
This is just a basic test to check both the wrist but also the metacarpophalangeal joints, the knuckle joints here, and just to see how he reacts to me playing with the foot.
Sure.
A lot of dogs don't like you playing with their feet, particularly with their nails. So this is a good way for him to know that we're going to play around with his foot in a minute. Yeah. But don't expect any sort of nail cutting or anything.
Yeah.
So just get some used to it. Most dogs, German Shepherds, you'll see it, but most other breeds you won't.
Gee, that looks like it could be pretty deep.
So we're checking the joint capsule here, and then when we do the rotation and wrist outwards, flexing, then we bring it up, flex the elbow. Notice how I'm holding the forearm, I'm not holding the wrist anymore. His nose.
Ah, okay.
It's about there. Good boy.
Good boy, mate.
All right,
Yeah,
try that
sure.
one. That's a
So-
tricky one, so we'll make sure we get that right.
So this hand is what I'm not doing when I usually do that one.
So bring the hand maybe forward. Up. Again, what we're doing is stabilizing the joint. Hand is above the knee and cradling it. And then we pick up the other part of his leg just below his ankle. It shouldn't be uncomfortable at all.
Right.
It's a very gentle test.
Okay.
We'll try and keep
So
his other
that's
leg
right
fairly
there.
neutral. Yep. That's better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So and you want that just off straight.
Yep.
So just enough to bend, make sure those joints are being engaged.
Yes.
And then just a little bit of pressure on that.
That's right.
to come
Trying to get it
up.
as
Yeah,
close to the angle that he would be when he's putting weight on it when he's standing.
Right. So if that's, let's say it's sore, doing that one, but it's not ruptured yet. Should I be putting that laser in around here?
Oh yeah, we'll go through that.
Oh yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's
rotating
taking
the wrist
weight,
inwards.
It's taking the weight off there.
Yeah. And it depends on the injury. If you rotate inwards and you get a reaction, then you know it's here.
Yeah.
As he landed, we'll do it there. So you can see that injury a bit with agility dogs too.
Okay.
So if they're doing agility and The courses they're doing are quite complex, and they're doing what they call wrapping, where they jump and then they have to, before they land, they have to rotate.
Yeah,
and
sure.
jump back over and same with cruciate ligaments. Those tests on the knee are actually easier to do when they're lying down. Inhibitory is more about shutting down inflammation.
Right.
So when we have inflammation or swelling around an area, whether it be from a knock or a torsion or a tear, there are numerous things that happen not only in the cells but in the blood as well, where the body will send messages everywhere to the brain, and then the messages from the brain sends back, okay, we need to produce more of this stuff, more of that stuff, more of this, and then the whole area is just flushed with all good stuff and not so good stuff. So the idea is to try and slow that down, because that swelling, that inflammation is what causes heat, what causes the throbbing and the pain. It's an important part of the healing process, but in a lot of cases that swelling and pain can be there for too long. So the idea is to try and slow that process down a little bit. And it doesn't just occur all at once. There's like a domino effect. One hormone stimulates the next hormone, which stimulates the next one, which stimulates the next one. So the idea is to try and stop that domino from falling, which will then stop the other ones from falling. But it stimulates the cells to release this nitric oxide, which will then alleviate the pain, and then will also help with mobility, because that pain's being reduced as well. So you can use multiple programs at once.
For the one injury.
Correct. So you could use program 1, which is more for stimulating, reducing inflammation, stimulating the healing, and then you could use program 5 to then use to reduce the pain.
That would probably be the go-to really for the majority of things, would be 1 and 5.
1 and 5 for your standard stuff. For the first 2-3 days, you'd probably go with 4. Program 4, because it does a lot of them. So it kind of ranges between a few of the frequencies. So it won't just use one type of laser, it will use all 3.
So that's what it means by being variable there.
Yes, that's right.
Variable depth.
So variable, it essentially is stimulatory, but it does also inhibit when it is trying to reduce the pain. But you would probably use this for the first, say,
so if you actually saw the injury and you could see that that's what happened, you do your isolating assessment, and then you could use that one because it's a very new injury.
For sure, So say, for instance, the fellow that just cut his toe, you would use 4. So you could use 4 on open wounds. Not directly on it, but just off.
Around it,
and that will have a good healing effect on that. And also help with the pain.
That's good.
But for your fellow with the elbow, you'd probably go with, your 1 and your 5. This pain point is usually more for arthritis and for deep tissue stuff. So you need to have it on a specific point for a little bit longer to get the depth of penetration. Going back to laser theory, we're using light, and photons or light cells or light molecules go in a straight line. They don't vary. They're not like noise that go out in a wave. They go in a straight line. But when they hit tissue, when they hit cells, they hit those cells and scatter off. So there's a thing called scatter when you're using a laser, that as the deeper it goes, the more that laser goes further, it gets deflected off, deflected off, deflected off, deflected off. So as it goes in, it's not going straight, it kind of fans out, but as it gets deflected, the less it goes in depth. So you need, the deeper you want it to go, the longer you have got to have it on the point.
You're trying to treat one of these 3 issues?
So these are just a breakdown of the things that you would mostly come across. So if you're dealing with a joint, stage 1, 2, 3, typically that hasn't been covered because that's usually considered an acute injury. So they would probably put that over in this one, or tissue repair.
Alrighty, g'day guys, we're at the end of the day now, and Neil has been handing over a whole heap of information around all sorts of potential issues and how to find all sorts of common problems associated with the dog's skeletal system and joints. It's a lot of information to take on, but I loved it. I want to say a big thank you, Neil, for coming up here A massive big thank you to Chris and Renata, and also the other people involved who wanted to remain anonymous. After going through the laser, it is an amazing bit of kit, and the dogs are going to get a lot of use out of it. So Neil's done a lot of homework and chose a laser that is going to be very effective up here for us. It's cordless, it doesn't have to be plugged in, so it's going to be very versatile and able to be used in all situations. So big thank you, Neil, and thank you to everyone who was involved in supporting this and getting Neil out here. I actually didn't know what was going on. Neil contacted me and said, hey, we're going to do this thing, we need to come up with a date. So it was really, really cool. And big thanks to our 2 test subjects today, Rover and Roscoe. We did all the manipulations and testing on these guys, and they were very willing participants.
I'm pretty knackered now, though. They're pretty tired.
So I really appreciate it. It's a big effort for Neil to come up. It's a long way up from home, but yeah, big thanks all around. Really appreciate it, mate.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
And just keep an eye out for any information, guys. If you are interested in learning more about how to examine your own dogs and trying to find injuries without having to go and see a professional, particularly for the initial injuries that you're just not sure whether they need to be seen by a professional, keep an eye out for some of my stuff. If I have anything that's ready to go, which should be done in the next week or so, I'll let Luke know, and hopefully he can let you guys know.
Yeah, I was definitely going to give you a plug on this one, but I didn't want to pressure you.
That's fine. That's
we're more than happy to support you in this and get it out there. So I must say, from today, going through everything with Neil, it is well worth your time learning these things about your dogs. It's going to fast track, and you're most likely, I believe, you'll probably become more proficient than your local vet at diagnosing some of these things. So it's well worth your while. As soon as these videos are ready, we will definitely help get them out there for you.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Awesome. Righto, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.